Well, good morning. Hello to you. Hello to you in TV land. There are smiling faces, among other things, behind these masks. We just finished this 9 days, 15 days? How long was it? 9 days of listening meditation practice. And Anusha and I have planned zero about what we're going to do once we get up here. But I had an idea. Do you want to hear it?
Sure.
My idea, and then I'll hear if you have an idea. We could talk with the Sangha about a theme of love, fear, COVID, and Dharma. Because here we are, 4 years later, wearing masks. Do you want to talk about that theme? Or?
The other thing that really came up for me is that I wanted to talk a little bit about my first introduction to sound practice, which is through dance, and listening as a devotional practice. Felt like something else I wanted to share.
Great. Yeah, we want to hear that.
So, the Indian classical dance tradition is a devotional practice, and the beauty of that tradition is it makes it very clear that you can't listen to anything, you can't be moved by sounds, you can't express your life unless you get out of the way. This is a pretty rigorous training. It's what we've been doing here. They have some beautiful techniques, what you might call gestures. And so I just wanted to share them with you in case they might be helpful. They're really exactly what we're doing in Zen practice. It's like what Subhuti said, how do I stand? How do I walk? How do I deal with this crazy mind? So the dance tradition, the very first thing that we learn is a relationship with the floor and our feet that has to do with intense appreciation. So just literally, wow, the earth is holding me. And the second thing is, literally you'll go to a dance class and you will stomp your foot on the ground like this for hours so that you understand, oh wow, I feel sound. It's not something far away, it's intimate. Before we're allowed to take up a dance piece, we have to do what's called a pranam, a salutation. This means we touch the earth with our hands. In some of the texts we were reading, people touched the Buddha's feet and lifted it to their heads. This is the same gesture that we do in the dance tradition. We touch the earth and put it to our head. This idea of we're going to the lowest part of the body to the highest part of our body, showing respect. And then we raise our hands over our head, really in honor of the great mystery. As we know, there's a mystery. We've all experienced that this week. Everything can be set up for a smooth Sesshin, and then COVID visits. And what do we learn there? Or a beautiful person disappears in Tassajara. This is a mystery. It needs to be respected. And we bring our hands to our forehead. A gesture of respect for the teachers, the lineage, the teachings. And finally, our hands are at our heart. Respect of everyone else, all of us, everyone who is making this effort in life to love well, to listen deeply. And then it's from that kind of position that you set up the listening body. Part of this is actually just feeling deeply into the body. Is it really bounded? Simply feel your hands. Is there a beginning and end to your hand? You can ask that question with every part of your body. In the dance tradition, we call this the cosmic body, Shiva's body, the boundless body, the infinite body. Through this, all things arise, all beautiful sounds, all terrible sounds. And they touch us. Move us to express our lives so many different ways. When you have this attitude, this devotional attitude, it doesn't make you feel so alone.
That was probably enough, right? Well, I think especially for those who haven't themselves done Sesshin, if they're listening to the Sangha and the kind of sincerity and insights that arise from you, in some ways that's even more encouraging than those of us who've sat around for years and years doing this. Although some of you are included in that long-term sitting around. So let's get out the microphone and see if anybody wants to share anything about listening, sound, devotion, what you discovered, what has made this of value. Did you just voluntold her?
I was not here for 9 days, although I would have loved to be nowhere else but here, though I do have a beautiful baby niece now. I was trying to get in on Sanzen, but I missed it, but this is great because this is kind of an experience I had last week with on the devotion topic specifically. I find I've got a lot of weird emotions, so I'm sorry if just crying comes out. That I need to come here. And I've talked with some of the folks here who are permanently here. Well, what is permanent? But I really appreciate what you're talking about with the dance tradition. And I feel like there are a lot of other cultures who have these kind of very ritualistic tendencies around even some things, from the outside we might not feel are necessarily ritualistic, and it's very beautiful. And I've kind of noticed myself noticing, unfortunately, deeply listening to things that I have a hard time reconciling them, in that I have a certain need for that level of devotion and ritualistic nature, and I do think that's a big part of what draws me here to the monastery specifically, even though it's so far away from where I live. And so I guess I'm just kind of wondering, when you observe or when you're out in the world, not doing so much of that kind of, I guess, respectful homage, maybe might be a right term to use, if there's a right term. How do you manage that very, very natural and very, very difficult tension? Sorry, that's a really loaded question.
I had this interesting experience of getting COVID on the Sesshin. So it's this impossible situation of wanting to be there to assist Jogen and yet needing to be separated in a room. So we did our best. We have ways of piping people through remote screens and whatnot. But I found my heart, like what you were saying, this impulse to bow to things, to be connected, which is something I'm very touched by when I come here. Really hurting. And so I ended up actually just bowing to everything in my room. I found myself bowing to my snotty tissue, bowing to my bowl, And it felt like a really important, what they call carrying practice, something that you can take back with you. These forms are here, but we can use them all the time. The great teaching of having COVID for me was, in some ways, everything can be bowed to. There's an opportunity in every situation. And so if that's something that stirs your heart, it's a wonderful practice.
Yeah, when we were when Anusha and I were doing bows to the Buddha and I was in the bow, it's a space I want to stay forever. I feel like I could just stop and lie prone in what a bow is. Because we disappear in a bow. Our separation disappears for a moment. And this gives me the idea that I'm going to take up the subversive practice, whether I'm at 7-Eleven or waiting for the bus or whatever, to gasho to people. Let them be disrupted by my gesture. There has been times where I've come out of deep sesshin and I've been at a food cart in Portland and just spontaneously bowed to people. And they're both sort of taken aback, but they also understand. Right? In some ways, that gesture is more powerful than anything we could say. So let's gasho to people and see what happens. Or to the crows, or to the empty shopping carts, or whatever it may be.
And of course, there are many cultures in the world where that is a common greeting. It's I would say most people bow to each other. Thank you.
I heard someone say, and I'm sorry I can't remember the teacher's name, but that the nature of the universe is fundamentally musical, and everything that we do in our lives is guided by resonance, actually. Like every decision that we make, what it comes down to is, does it resonate with you? Do you feel a harmony coming alive in you? And if we can guide our lives in that way, well, what other compass do we have, really? And that some traditions really see when they ask the question, what are humans for? Like, what are we here for? That in this living world that's singing to us, our job is to sing back. And that harmony just brings both all more alive and more awake. And that, it's easy to fall into thinking that humans have destroyed a lot, that we're destroying the planet. And it's so healing and gives me hope to think like, oh, actually, traditionally humans have been seen as having this important role to play, and actually waking up through sound and through music and other means too, bowing, waking up a place, because a place is not a dead thing. It is all infused with that musical resonance. And so that's a little bit about why sound practice is so important to me, to start hearing that song and feeling that call rise in me to offer back, and that reciprocity of aliveness.
But which song, Kosho? Because we have selfish songs and fearful songs in us, and we have songs that decide that my tribe's the right tribe and yours is the wrong one. We have all kinds of songs, so how do we know which song?
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's interesting. I was thinking about, in terms of sound practice, going back to the city and feeling afraid. But it's really important to me to bear witness and try to find a stability of my sound practice within that, remembering that that too is all the play, the luminous play of the great power in all of its scintillating manifestation. And so I think, to answer your question, it's not easy. I don't know. And so I keep practicing and trying to really hold a spacious mind that's listening, deeply listening, and then trying to feel what resonates, and just little by little, step by step, letting that guide my path. Because I'd get it wrong all the time, and I listen to wrong song. So devotion is really important there, knowing that I have, having an ongoing relationship with guardianship, that I can ask for help to guide me.
I think part of what devotion does is it transforms wrong song into just pure energy. And so even in the strange story behind that is just aliveness. So you can check in with that, just the pure energy of the situation.
Shay wants to share. So does.
I just wanted to say one thing in relation to this. What came to mind is the true song is always within the false song.
So I guess I've been working with words for a long time. And I think what attracts me so much to this practice is the silence of it and how much the most profound moments I've experienced came without words, through experiencing something of that great mystery that you were talking about, Enryu. And I feel like beyond all these songs and all these words and all these tribal chants and anthems, there's always an inner song and a deeper song that kind of comes through that communicates something a lot much more meaningful and much more real. And I had a moment during this Sesshin that I thought was really interesting, and I think it came around when you asked us to think of a vow. And then it came again when we were asked to think of people that weren't listed, names, and remember them if they're ill and so on. And I found this instinct to put words to things, to start to maybe pray or hope or develop a poem or a mantra for each person. And then I realized that this whole Sesshin, sound has been moving things out of me in a way that made me feel deeply heard without having to say a single word. And just by sitting there, just by really leaning into whatever's coming out, my words don't matter. And I felt deeply heard. And I thought that was really profound.
We've been doing a lot of receptive listening over the past 9 days. And I've found that of course, the receptivity is an active relationship. But one way that I've found to explore devotional practice is in that singing back, finding the different textures that arise in relationship and relativity between different sounding objects, whether that be humming along with the bathroom fan or the refrigerator or the harp as it pulses against the body, in singing with another individual, through chanting, even in unison, even when there's not harmony. The imperfections rub up against each other and create this world of sound. In that metallophone you were playing, there are so many notes in between the notes from them clashing against each other in unpredictable, sometimes predictable ways. Whole universes all coming out of relationship. What can be more mysterious than that?
During the last talk, Jogen was talking about something about creating space, and I'm not sure that what I heard was what he said, but my mind is always full with something, and the image came to me of like a really crowded restaurant where everyone's waiting to get in and there's no room, but you can reserve a table. And I thought, well, I'll reserve a table for sound, and even if sound isn't there, it's available if it arrives. And I thought, well, I could actually reserve the whole restaurant. And then I thought, well, fill it with emptiness. And I thought, well, filling with emptiness takes effort. Normally, if we have this default control mechanism that just fills it up with whatever. So filling the mind with emptiness is kind of what I'm working with right at the moment.
I have a question for Shanae. How do you find the true song within the false song?
Good question. I think Enryu described it well. I think I was just saying in my own words what she said is the raw energy of the false song. So do you have an example of a false song?
Okay, so for example, my mind is scared, telling me lots of stories, busy, like I can't listen. Yeah. Like, you want me to share? Yeah. Okay. I won't be able to find any work that allows me to do a lot of Sesshin practice.
So once you identify the thought, so that's an important part of the how, is just the stability of mind to identify it. And then I find it helpful to close the eyes in this case, and then see if I can find where that is in the body. So I won't be able to find work. And then I usually will feel it like in the chest or in the abdomen. And then the practice becomes just being that, loving that, breathing with that, finding space around that.
And the other fact is that it's a beautiful thing that you're so moved to want to do Sesshin practice. So it's not just a problem. I think it's important that we acknowledge wholesome feelings and thoughts. There's a strength there. I would pay attention to that.
All right, maybe one more person.
I was just thinking that dance and music are that I can think of the only art forms where you don't wait for the end. The dance is the dance while it's happening, so is the music. Otherwise, you would just play the last chord and be done with it. That's it. Thank you.
They're Dharma arts. course, a painting is a painting while it's in process, though. Poem's a poem while it's in process. Yeah? Just like we're a work of art as we're in process. But everybody knows music is superior. I know him very well. I know him very well. Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody, for your insights that you expressed, your insights that you didn't express. Please carry forth the Dharma into your everyday life. It's up to us to actualize it. It doesn't just happen by itself, but if we're out of the way, it will kind of just happen by itself. So please take care of this gift, this energy that you've gathered in your body. Please come back if you can. Please tune in if you're able. Thank you.